Problems with the Women in My Life. My name is Brennan, and joining me tonight is Jess.
What's up, everyone?
I know, 2 Just Me and Jess episodes in a row. It's like the olden days. It's like it's like 5 years ago. Tonight, we are doing Vengeance, the new-ish 2022 movie. That's right, it's from last year. I actually saw it then, and we were going to catch up on it, but we never got around to it, and then I forgot about it. And then Jess said she saw it recently, and I'm like, oh, I meant to talk about that on the show. I thought it would be something to talk about. But yeah, Jess, how did you stumble across Vengeance?
I was on an airplane and I needed something to watch, and a lot of my streaming services are getting cheaper and cheaper. So now I think my only downloadable option is Prime. So I went on Prime. I know, I can't download from Netflix. I don't think I can download from Hulu. I don't even know if you can download on Max. Maybe you can. But anyway, I went on Prime trying to find something, and it just kind of caught my attention. It got high ratings. The genre was drama, thriller. The description said something about like a murder, and I'm like, all right, this is a good plane watch. It'll keep me entertained and make the plane ride go by faster. So that's how I chose it.
There you go. That's a good start. And as is your usual, I'm sure you checked the high Rotten Tomatoes score of 81 to 86%, and the runtime is under 2 hours. So I'm sure that had nothing to do with the choice.
Process of elimination. I just checked all my boxes.
And a 6.8 on IMDb. I don't know if we've said it yet, but it's directed and written by BJ Novak, who is probably most famous from The Office. He was Ryan, who was the temp, and then the CFO, and then a loser, and I don't know. This character had an interesting arc on that show, but he was also a writer and producer on that show, and at the time, he was in his, early to mid-20s, he was in his, mid-20s, very young guy, so he was always referred to as, the wunderkind and, up-and-comer, and he's made other stuff, he made a TV show, he's been a producer on a lot of things, but this, I believe, is his directorial debut from last year. And, I give you the lowdown on the points and stuff. I don't think I read the synopsis, though. A journalist and podcaster travels from New York City to Texas to investigate the death of a woman whom he hooked up with. So there you go. It's BJ Novak playing, I think, a version of himself that people imagine. I don't know if it's actually how he is, but BJ Novak is playing a character that I imagine people imagine he is. So, if you haven't seen it,
I could say this is more or less his personality, the writer, the liberal New Yorker kind of guy. Yeah.
Yeah, podcaster, the casual relationships. Yeah. So BJ Novak movie, there you go. It's on a plane, and you can download it on Amazon Prime. And I looked at it before this. It's actually, I didn't see it streaming anywhere free presently. I saw it on VOD for a couple bucks here and there, but it's pretty readily available and not too expensive. So if you haven't seen it, we're gonna spoil it here now. And as I said, Vengeance, it's about this guy, Ben Manalowitz, just call him Ben, and he's a New York City journalist. He lives the metropolitan life. He's got casual relationships. He's friends with John Mayer. And in the very early on in the movie, he gets a call from the brother of a girl he hooked up with saying that she has died. And apparently this girl has told her whole family about him and how they are inseparable, and he is so awesome and such an interesting, awesome New York boyfriend. And so, through some arm twisting, BJ Novak's character is forced to go out to the funeral in Texas, in some town that's 8 hours away from Dallas. It's 3 hours from some tiny town, and then it's 5 hours from that even tiny town. Whatever.
Yeah, the way he described where it was hilarious. But it's very west Texas.
Yeah, is it Austin? That's another city. That's another country. Dallas? That's not even Texas. Yeah. So anyway, they live in Podunk, Texas, and he goes out there, goes to the funeral, he talks to the family, and he realizes these are some interesting kind of weirdo characters, and he starts to get an idea. He's like, girl died, and it finds out maybe mysterious circumstances, and maybe not, but either way, this family is kind of eccentric, kind of wild. Maybe this could be my This American Life. This could be my Serial. This could be my big New York podcast moment. And so he calls up his boss, Issa Rae, and Issa Rae is like, it's good enough. And so he decides to stay there and investigate the murder of this woman and the town and all of the underlying deep meanings thereat. And one of the main characters in this is also Ashton Kutcher in a cowboy hat. So I will leave it at that. Jess, what'd you think of Vengeance?
The first scene was John Mayer, like you said, John Mayer and Ben, and I thought to myself, I'm like, that really looks like John Mayer, and I didn't think it was. I thought it was just a lookalike until I
just lookalike
looked at it on my phone. I'm like, oh wait, that actually was John Mayer. That's funny. So the plot. It was kind of like every movie we've ever seen a million times before. So someone has somewhat of a malicious or at least ill heart or just some selfish intent, and they are going to befriend or make peace with this group, and then they turn soft and they become friends, and then the secret's revealed and they turn and
you got it.
So it wasn't exactly like that because he was very upfront that he's going to do a podcast. It's not like he was trying to be friends with him and then later they found out it was just for the podcast. But more or less, like, the theme, like, still kind of was there. So when he first is introduced to this Texas family and he's kind of judgmental and he sees how different they are, I kind of knew he was going to have a soft spot for them at the end. But what I did not see is who the killer was. And I liked the story. I liked following him. I was never bored watching this. I think it has a lot of good dynamics. And I really liked the characters. I think they were really fun to watch.
Yeah, so like when I first saw this, and my thoughts in my head were, I saw the trailer and I was like, oh, BJ Novak movie, and I think in my head of the character Ryan from did you watch The Office? Did you remember?
I watched The Office.
Okay, so if maybe you would have even stronger preconceived notions going in if you had known his character, because his character on The Office is like super mega douchey. Like he's like one of the better villains on the show, I would say. And so I was expecting something kind of like tone deaf and like out of touch and clunky, and I was not expecting a good movie, honestly. I was expecting like kind of something that is like trying but misses the mark, and I was extremely pleasantly surprised. I really liked Vengeance. I think, unlike a couple other movies we've talked about recently where the sticking the landing has been a topic, I don't love how this movie ends. I don't like the conclusion that much. The explanation, the kind of wrapping in a bow is a little. It's kind of like, I don't know how we're gonna get to the end. It's a little abrupt. I
liked how they figured out who the killer was. I was like, if they end this open-endedly, then I still want to know. I liked that, but after that, I was like, I don't really know.
Yeah, I think when I'm talking about like the ending, I'm talking about the last 10, 15 minutes maybe, like really ending. Up until that point, it's a very tight narrative and pretty solidly funny. Like a lot of the banter is funny to me, and a lot of it is fish out of water comedy. It's big New York guy goes to this podunk town, and then they say their podunk town things, and then he reacts, and that's the comedy, is seeing their different reactions to things. And then the story is him talking to people and like trying to figure out story beats, and then like the Ashton Kutcher character is like the overarching like come back around, wrap things up character. He's like a music producer, and he's kind of like hippy dippy. He's got these philosophy things, and so BJ Novak's drawn to him because he's like, what do you do? Like you're like a me. You're like a big city. Like what are you doing out here with all these people? And then Ashton Kutcher says all his fancy like, oh, here's all my philosophy about how I live my life. It's real people, and this is real, and you know he does his thing, and like BJ Novak's intrigued, but he doesn't fully buy it. But what I also like, what I like about how this goes is what I was expecting is BJ Novak dunks on like stupid rural folks is what I was worried about, but the rural like Texas people are not portrayed as pure stereotype. They have their own motivations and conniving things, and like they have their own stuff going on. Like when it's revealed like 2/3 in that like they are kind of putting on being in quotations, dumber than they appear. Like the Alamo scene and the whole funeral setup, like it's a little more like the brother knows that they were on the sister was on drugs. I just like that it plays both sides a little fairer and isn't just like beating you over the head, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's something, yeah. It feels more organic that way. But did you like the twists coming? Like, you know, what? How did you expect like this to wrap through? Because like we're following the sister, or not the sister, the girlfriend, and we think like, oh, she probably just OD'd. But what were you expecting?
I think there was a killer. So I don't think that she necessarily OD'd. I do think there was more to it, because once he realized that she was that she had an addiction problem, and he kind of like blew up, and he's like, why am I even here? Like, this is so dumb. There's no story anymore. Yep. And I'm like, no, I still think there is. I still think you're gonna find it. So I did think there actually was a story, but I did not see her being an addict, just because the way that her brother was like, we're gonna find this killer and we're going to be, and then the way he said it just makes no sense. Like, she doesn't even take an aspirin. Like, everyone, like, the cops aren't helping. We're gonna do this. So I really did think that someone did actually go out and kill her.
It's that weird towny folk speak where it's like, bless your heart, where like everyone talks like everyone, like everything sounds a certain way, but like it's like code. It's like everyone's at the party. What is it? The after party. Everyone's at the after party, but no one was there. Like, it's the same thing. Yeah. Everyone speaks in towny, you know, and it's something I kind of recognized growing up in a small town in, you know, middle of nowhere kind of place, and I remember it, and I never really understood it. It didn't click with me as a person. But like when they say things like, it's at the first dinner. It's at like the dinner table scene when they're first talking, like, what do you love about Whataburger? And there's like, it's right there.
It's right there.
It's right there. And they're like, okay, but in this scenario, BJ Novak's being like me. This is what I would do. Like, okay, but like, let's put this scenario. There's 4 restaurants here. There's the McDonald's and they're all just like, you fucking idiot. You don't get it. It's right there. What don't you understand? And then like, and he's just like, okay, all right, I don't get it. And I think the one guy, Boyd Holbrook, the main brother, is like, you could point to the reasons, but you just love it, and you don't need to point to the reasons. You just, you know, that's enough. And that's like kind of a lot of their differences in everything. Is like the towny way is like bless your heart. The everyone was at the party, no one was at the party. It's like we speak politely, but we don't speak truthfully. There's something about that. Whereas like BJ Novak is like, I date 7 women at once and I don't care about anybody. Like, it's just like it's like the opposite ends. It's very entertaining.
The way that they kind of like get him soft, where you know, he goes to the hospital and they all visit him all as a family. I don't think that was enough. Like, I think they needed to get even fluffier to show that they're actually a family, because all they really did was all show up around the hospital, which is like nice. Like, if this guest was staying with me and their car blew up, like, yeah, I would go to the hospital too. But it's like you needed to see a family tradition, or you needed to see something else to really kind of change his ways and be like, oh, maybe I should actually, you know, not take people for granted and see people who they are instead of like ways. I don't think that was as fully convincing as it should have been.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with you there, because like, and you could have used the Whataburger too, because they used the Whataburger as a great example earlier of like, why do you love it? Because it's there and you love it, and like he doesn't understand that. Like, you could have used that, like later on they have the Whataburger scene where he goes, and then after that is when I think they blow up at each other, and they kind of have like, oh, you knew she was an addict this whole time, and then that's where they dress each other down. But I think, yeah, that would have been a good opportunity to like layer things in, and then like at that moment explodes, and then I think that could have cut more. But it's more of it's a structural nitpick. I think I think what I really, I just like took note of like my favorite scenes, because I was seeing this for the second time, like just kind of refreshing myself, because I remembered it pretty well. My favorite just gags are at the funeral. The picture of her is it's her kissing him on the cheek, and it's him like holding up a drink and like putting his finger up in the air, like the funeral the funeral picture is and he has to speak at it, and he's just like making shit up. Like that's a classic like The Office. I don't know if it sounds like you didn't watch The Office, but that's a very The Office scene where like he goes to the funeral he didn't even want to go to, and he's accidentally like the star. I don't know, that stuff works for me.
Sorry.
No, please continue.
Oh no, the way that the cops in this movie are so useless. It's almost
my god, that was my next transition. That was exactly what I was going to talk about next with the cop departments.
Yeah, it's almost like too exaggerated. Like, it's almost like too comedic. Like, they're so stereotypical and so useless. Like, there's really no point to them at all. Like, even the last scene where they were like, people like radioing them on the walkie-talkies, like, oh, this person died, this happened. They're like, oh, wow, this person died, I didn't think that would happen, blah, blah, blah. Like...
Well, yeah, because they're all in on the, they're all in on the after party, too, though. I wasn't there. Like, that's such a weird scene, too, later on when the after party goes, and literally everybody's there, and there's, like, we were all just pretending none of this happened. Like, they all just pretend none of it happens. It's so strange, but there is something, like, true about it to me, about small town, where, like, everyone just politely agrees things aren't real, and then they all go do them, and then they pretend they don't. Like, there is something so strange to me about, like, to me that makes no sense at all. Why would you ever do that? But there is something true about it, you know?
For a community that had such a bad drug problem, you'd think there'd be more violence around. Like, there wasn't any, like, gangs I mean, there were, but it wasn't as super prevalent. Like, it's just kind of hush-hush, but, you know, in any society, when there's that big of a problem that everyone talks about and everyone knows, there's going to be a lot more violence kind of around, and they didn't really show that.
Well, it all felt very controlled, and I think that's kind of part of the point, is that, like, Ashton Kutcher, because, like, it's revealed that Ashton Kutcher's kind of, like, the big bad, in quotations, right? Yeah, he's in charge of the town, in so many words. And so, like, he's kind of like the old school, like, mob would have been back in the day, where, like, they protect the town, you know, they run a racket, you know, you don't want any problems, you give us a little money, we keep you safe, kind of things. And, like, it works both ways, where, like, if you pay them the money, they actually do protect the neighborhood, and actually everyone is covered. And then when someone comes in, like, they actually do fuck with you. Like, I think in my heart of hearts, Ashton Kutcher actually has the town's interest at heart best, but he's willing to do, like, the ruthless cleanup stuff, like when someone goes too far with their drugs, they gotta go, kind of thing, you know? Like, hey, everyone can have fun at the hangout after party, but when someone goes too far, it's Ashton Kutcher's job to clean the town up and keep it nice for everybody and keep everything right there, as they say. I think that's kind of the bigger point. Having said all that, I do think the ending's it's just a little sloppy. Like, he shoots him. Like, Ashton Kutcher goes on a big speech, and BJ Novak shoots him.
That's just to make the movie full circle. And I agree. I didn't like that he shot him either. But in the beginning, when he got in the car with Tyler was like, we're going to shoot this guy. And then Ben is like, I'm not really a gun kind of person. I'm just going to define the character, or however he says what he's going to do. So the fact that it came full circle, and it kind of meant, you know, he's loyal to these people now, and he found the killer, and he is going to have vengeance or whatever. I agree. I don't like that either. And he didn't even seem panicked or whatever. He was just like, you know, I did it. It's done. Now time to move on. So I agree. I didn't like that either. And Tyler, like, very much knew exactly what happened and how her sister died. It's just crazy. Yeah. Like, he didn't get mad at Ashton Kutcher at all. Like, he didn't even talk to him. He didn't even, like, look at him. He knew he was the source. And I'm sure he knew they were secretly dating, even though his sister changed the phone to be Ben's name. Like, I'm sure everyone knew they had a fling. I'm sure he has a fling with all the girls.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Is like it's part of the town dynamic, and like you said, he doesn't get mad at Ashton Kutcher exactly, but it's like, think about it like practically. If you had a sibling like who died of an OD, or like, yeah, you would be mad at the dealer. Yeah, you'd be mad at the shithead friends they hung out with. We just did another movie all about addiction. Like, yeah, you would be mad at the people, but like at the end of the day, the person that you should be mad at is the person who's the addict, the person who's fucking up. Like as hard and like hurtful and then like unfair and all the jazz as it is, like that's who the buck stops with. And so BJ Novak has to shoot Ashton Kutcher to clean the town. This is my whole thing. Like it's a pretty tight, solid, like fair movie up until the end, and then I'm like, it just has to be a movie and kind of end, you know? And like, what's the ending? They go back, they reconcile, and he decides not to produce the podcast and keep it. I know.
I wish he produced the podcast because it's not.
Well, he shot Ashton Kutcher. I don't know if he wants to. Maybe he wants to keep that under wraps. I don't know.
That's true.
I don't know.
But it's not okay. That aside, before Ashton Kutcher got in his head about what it really means, like, if he kept it the way that his boss wanted him to, where just accepting that she did get an OD, and he had this realization, I honestly forgot what the realization was, but he like found himself, and he didn't want answers in the world. I kind of, I don't remember what, but I still think that has truth to the ending, and that's still valid. Like, I think they should have left pinpointing the murder and kept it open-ended.
I kind of agree. I tend to agree with you only because I don't love the ending, and so I'm kind of willing to try other types of things. I think maybe something a little more open-ended, a little more ambiguous, or a little looser. Because if the whole point of the movie is like, oh, the liberal city folks, they think they have it all figured out, but they're so detached and they don't really live life. And then if the critique of the rural population is, oh, they help everyone out and they're really good to their community, but they don't face up to their problems, and they hide things and they sweep things under their rug, and they're not honest with what's going on. If that's the critique of like the two way these people are living, then I think the conclusion doesn't quite serve that. Like, it doesn't quite like say like, and here's a solution or here's a path forward. I guess the best it is just like, be patient with each other. Be tolerant. You know, you never know. You never know the struggle. So if someone yells at you and they're having a bad day, maybe they're just having a bad day. Maybe they're not the worst person in the world, and they had a moment of weakness. And maybe we should just be a little more graceful with each other, perhaps.
I agree. And one character that I do admire who has more depth than what she put on was the mom. Like, she had some one-liners that were like, ooh, that kind of stuck. Like when, I think this was after Ben freaked out and the mom was kind of explaining why she might do drugs. And she's like, well, it's like people kind of like you, where like, you're in and out of people's lives, you don't mean anything. Like that could hurt someone, and that could lead someone to do these kinds of things. And I'm like, whoa, Mom, like, you actually have a lot more going in there than you play.
Oh, bless your heart, huh? Bless your heart. Mm-hmm.
And she said a few other things I can't exactly remember, but things that make you think like, wow, she has a lot of depth in her character. It's just like, unfortunately, she's put in a position where she's in a shallow, like, I don't know, shallow environment.
Did you watch Succession, the HBO show?
No, I didn't.
See, that's one, like, she's that actress, J. Smith Cameron. She's one of the like big supporting roles in that. She plays like the company CFO. I think you would that might be up your. I think you might be able to like that show. You like shows. You like putting shit on. I think that's something you could get behind, especially working in the white collar business world. It would be relatable material. But anyway, I'm trying to think any other bits on Vengeance. I made notes of the Whataburger, the funeral scene I laughed at. I do like the John Mayer scene at the beginning where he says something like, I'm really thinking about settling down. I date 6 or 7 women at once, but I sometimes really think about what it's like to date 2 or 3, And BJ Novak's like, that would be so special. That would be so it's good stuff.
I interpreted that wrong. I thought Ben was trying to impress or like learning from John Mayer or like trying to be like John Mayer.
Okay.
I thought he was like the dopey nerd, like trying to be cool with him, and John Mayer was actually cool until I realized like, no, he's a player despite the lack of looks he has. He somehow gets 6 or 7 women.
I was gonna say there's the BJ Novak. I wrote this role for myself. I'm a suave New York ladies man.
Yeah, and you look at him and you're like, you are 5'8" and you've got like not the best looking face. So I don't know how you're competing with these like finance bros in New York, but
I guess when it comes to guys, it's the hustle. I guess he puts himself out there. I don't know. It's a fine film, and at least that's what I think. Do you recommend Vengeance?
Yeah, I think we should on this a little bit more than what it actually was worth.
Yeah, we took our usual shots,
That's true. So I finished this movie, and again, I really liked it. I think it's a good airplane movie. Like, there's no inappropriate scenes where someone's looking over and be like, what the hell are they watching? It really carried on. It was a solid plot, and I think I was engaged the entire time. So I give this a thumbs up for if you're on a plane and you want to pass some time, just throw this movie on.
There you go. If you're on a plane, I mean, this is coming out at the end of a holiday weekend. So if you're on a long flight back, you're on a road trip. I don't know why you'd be on a road trip watching your car. Maybe you're the passenger in the car, and you're on your phone. I agree with you. Vengeance is good. I think it's like a 3.5 star movie. It's better than like if you look at if you watch the trailer. I think it's better than the trailer kind of thing.
I can see the trailer being like really stereotypical and overly dramatic. I didn't watch it, but I can see it being like that.
That's what I bet if you watch the trailer, Jess, like you would. When I said I was thinking about doing it for the show, I meant it was going to be a me, Mama Kay, and Nicole. I was going to leave you off because I was like, oh, this is like not Jess's kind of humor at all. Like BJ Novak's pretentious douche. I didn't think you liked The Office, so I was like, that's just not Jess's humor. I didn't think you'd like it. And then you text me that I just saw Vengeance. It's good. I'm like, Vengeance, the BJ Novak movie? I'm like, yeah, I like that movie. I didn't think you fucking would like that at all, but I was pleasantly surprised that you were pleasantly surprised, and so I think
to be fair, I didn't know who BJ Novak was at all, so I didn't have any prior notion of him.
There you go. I give you too much. I was like, I think she's gonna hate BJ Novak because of The Office, and what I didn't anticipate was that you didn't even know who he was to begin with. So
yeah,
two recommends for Vengeance, streaming now near you. 2022 film, good movie, Vengeance. And if you have things to recommend to us, we have a few slots available before the Oscar movies kind of start up, end of September, October. I mean, there's stuff coming down the pike, and we'll talk about that in the upcoming episodes. Films with the Women in My Life on Facebook. Reach out to me on Instagram. I'm Brennan_podhost. And you can email the show, filmswiththewomen@gmail.com. We're also on YouTube. You can just Google Films with Women in My Life. I know that's a fucking mouthful, so you should probably just do that one time, hit the subscribe thing, and then when it comes up, I'm just trying to make your life easier. So anyway, thanks for being on for Vengeance, Jess.
Yeah, thank you.
Till next time, this is Brennan signing off, saying thanks for listening and enjoy your movies.
Thanks for listening to Films with the Women in My Life. If you enjoyed being a listener in our life, please rate and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcast app. Keep up with the latest from the show on Instagram at Brennan_podhost, on Facebook at Films with the Women in My Life, and on Twitter at FilmsWomenPod. Finally, you can email the show with questions and suggestions at filmswiththewomen@gmail.com. Original music for the show was created by Ian Burke and Chris Iwanek. Original artwork created by Nicole D'Alessio. This show is produced by Brennan Snyder. Thank you again for listening and enjoy your movies.